Hello, welcome back. Hold on, why is that circling? Can the online people hear me? All right, thank you. I had a weird circling thing by my microphone I've never seen before, so it should be working. Great, thank you very much. All right, today we're gonna finish up the quote unquote magazine. We're gonna add some text. You're gonna do the same. It's the matching project where you add your own, you're gonna add your own title, whatever. We're gonna go through it. And then I'm going to talk about the Underwater Odyssey, and I downloaded some images. I'm going to run through a little bit of like my version, and I know from what I've seen, there's going to be some guffaws and like, oh man, because you may have to re-import one or two images once I show you what I'm doing. I don't know if I made it clear, or maybe some images were smaller, whatever, but we'll go over it. I'm going to go over it, and it's just like, I'll call it, I'm going to start teaching you some best of Photoshop practices, and hopefully you'll start to do those. It's not a big deal. It's all good. Don't worry. So don't worry. But we'll get to that. So for today's project, well, I'm just going to kind of start opening it, and then we'll talk about it. So open, I'll use the proper open. I will go to desktop where I have it hidden. 107, this is 7, and I'm gonna go to the start file, and I hit open, and there we are. They have everything created for us. They moved the girl over. It's great. One thing, we're gonna be doing type, and later on in the semester, I'm gonna be teaching you type effects, which is great. Photoshop is awesome for type effects. We're gonna do a type effect in here, which is really awesome, and it's the place to do it. But when it comes to quote unquote typesetting, I wouldn't use Photoshop. I would do all this Photoshop work in Photoshop, like do the title, her neck, the background, and then I would bring this image into one of the other dedicated typesetting programs, which is Illustrator or InDesign, and I would typeset in there. Why? It's far easier. All the controls are the same. Everything kind of works the same, but there's some layer differences that kind of make it a little clunky in Photoshop. And in the other programs where it's built for typesetting, it's far quicker, far easier to make changes, and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to learn it in here. And like I said, I'm going to teach you how to do later on in the semester more cool type effects, but those would be used for like one-offs, title of the book, title on, like just like one word where you can make it like really cool. You do it in Photoshop, and then the rest of the typesetting you do somewhere else. Just want to make that clear, because back in the day, we would have a lot of students then be like, oh, I'm familiar with Photoshop. I'll just do all my work in Photoshop. And we'd be like, no, you can't. Like, it doesn't fly in the industry. Just knowing one program. So, all right. First thing we got to learn is, and this is something I do all the time. I'm going to click off. Put that off. Something I do all the time, and it's pulling guides. So I'm going to go to rulers. And for me, it's Command R. And you see that turn on and off on the edge? Those are rulers. 90% of the time, I always have those turned on. And I missed a step. But so we'll go back. But turn on your rulers, and then you can pull guides. And pulling guides means if I click on the ruler on the left and pull, I click and drag, I can leave a mark that won't show up in the print. So I'm going to drag it, and it kind of clicked in right there. And I'm assuming that it knows that's halfway across the page. And I'm going to let go. And now I have a cyan line that goes across. And I can use that to line things up, do other things, whatever. I pull guides for everything. And later on, if you're in my Illustrator class, you'll be learning how to pull guides in a few weeks. And once you get into my other classes, I have you, every time you make a document, you're going to pull a guide for top and bottom, so you know where the middle of your document is. And it's just good practice. Like now I know where the middle is and I can design around it. I can pull guides like, and this is above and beyond. Like if I want to make sure I have a like nice margin, sorry. Go back up. How do I get it out of there? Cancel. Oh, I'm going to reopen this. Don't save. File. Open. It's the big cursor. It's not very accurate. You all can see it better, but it's not very accurate. So like I said, I pull guides for everything. It's just a really helpful thing to do when you're working on designs in general. Just kind of, and it doesn't show up. You don't have to turn them off. You don't have to do anything. They don't show up in the final. Like if I export this as a JPEG, you won't see those lines. There's a lot of these guides and templates in the other programs that you'll use to help your design, but don't show up in the end. They're just for you. And it's a gosh send. Like it's so great to do. So pull some guides. They just said pull one to the middle. If you want, pull another one, learn how to pull from your ruler. You could get the ruler by going to view and then rulers. There they go off, view, rulers, but really start to learn that little quick key so you don't have to be like, whoop, whoop. I can just, my hand is on my keyboard. I just like glance down, boom, R, done. So kind of get to learn that. We do want to change our workspace. So this is the workspace, and we can do it from window, workspace, and then they want us to change it to graphic and web. Or I can do it here as well. So there's always, like I said, always more than one way. And all that's doing, if we change it to graphic and web, is it's switching some things around. It's putting some new items up that they think are more important to use when you're doing graphic and web. And if you're doing, like, they call it essentials, which is just, or core tools, that's one, you know, and you can flip through these. I build my own. Once you have a reliable system and like one computer you're using all the time, and you can export them. I believe you can save them across platforms. The reason it doesn't work for me, there's a weird way that I think you can then, like, if you work on two of like the same brand computer, you know, PC or Mac, I think you can share these with each one. So I have at my house, I have a double screen set up. So I have double screen and single screen, and I flip between those quite often. And it just shifts my palettes, but they all look the same. Like I spent time making sure that like across the board, everything is always in its same spot. So I'm never looking for it. Like I can just glance over and be like, yep, you know, character is where it needs to be. So that's why they talk about changing these a little bit. It is, you figure out what you need, which one is best. And if you can't find something, sometimes changing this will make it easier on you. So there we are with that. We did guides. All right. Yeah.
So the instructions said to use the lesson 6 one that we already did.
You don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah. You can just open 7 if you want.
All right.
It used to be more important, or then, you know what the other one is? I'd have students be like, I didn't save the PSD, I just sent in the JPEG and I didn't keep it. And like, yeah, whatever. So you can use the one they have here. So yes, thank you for asking that. Yes, if the instructions say use the one that you previously opened, or I think maybe, oh, is it my bad instructing? I think I have to remove that line from the, but use the one that they give you. They adjusted it, they've changed it over time, and I think that's a copy and paste over. So thank you for finding that. I will write a note, fix assignment. It used to be different. But for the matching project, you do need to use your matching 6 for matching 7. That one you need to know. All right, so adding a point type. So point type just means I'm going to click there's point type where you click. And so I have lorem ipsum. Okay. And I'm going to undo. And then there's box type. I call it box type, but it's not called. Is where I click and I make a box where type will fit in. We're going to use, and it's a text box, but point means I'm just going to click on it and have it be 1 point. So in the layers panel, select the pattern. So I'm going to make sure I'm on pattern. And as you can see, it's right there. It's highlighted. Select the horizontal type tool in the options bar and do the following. Choose a serif typeface, such as Minion Pro Regular. All right, so I'm going to click on that. It should be this one. Minion is, I believe, I'm almost positive. Yeah, I think I thought it was a normal one. That's italic. Do I have regular? I'll keep it italic anyway. All right, do what you can. You know, pick a font, because we're going to change it anyway. We're going to change it later on. So you pick a font, and then we're going to make sure it's 115 point, and I'm going to hit return when I do that, so it works. And then we want center align. So to go over this for the people who aren't necessarily in typography yet, because I use this terminology throughout all my courses. The straight edge is left align, center is center align, and the straight line on the right is right align. There are more. Then I get into justified, force justified, and some other ones. You'll learn about that hopefully in your typography class more, and then I'll teach you more later on. All right, in the characters panel, we want to change the tracking, which is the little highlighted VA, to 50. And I think we want to make sure the color is black, because mine's red. So I'm going to change it to black, which I'm just going to drag all the way down to that corner and hit OK. Then I'm going to put my cursor here. I'm just going to double check. Minion Pro italic, 115 point, crisp, center, 50, black. And then I'm going to click. That comes up. And then I'm going to type typecast. All right, there we are. And then I can adjust it. Like if it's not perfectly centered, you can get it perfectly centered. The font I chose is a little bit too wide. We'll fix that later, but now you know how to set a point type. And I think we're going to adjust it now. Yeah. Semi-bold or similar font. All right, so now we're going to change it. So I clicked off, I got it centered, and how do I change it? Similar to any other like Word or whatever, as soon as I click on the type tool and I go over this, I should be able to either click and drag or double click on it, and it will highlight that text. And then I can go and I can switch the font. So there, let's see. So I'm going to switch it. Oh, I have Myriad Pro, and then they say Myriad Pro semi-bold. Concept semi-bold. I'll do that one. And then so now my font has changed, right? So that's how you can change the font. You should. There's another way. But that's the easiest. You go and you highlight it and you can change it. You can change it up here. I'm used to always changing it here because I use this system more in the other two programs that we use a lot. So again, it just kind of becomes what you're used to, but it should be based on what you use the most. And you'll be using the other programs more, if that makes sense. Okay, I adjusted it to make it better. Myriad Pro, save your work. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so now I want to make sure I'm in the layers panel. I'm going to make sure I'm on the typecast file, and I'm going to choose file, place embed, and I'm going to embed an image. So I'm making sure I have that. I'm going to go to File, Place Embed, Embed, not Embed. I'm going to hit Metal TIFF, and I'm going to hit Place. And that places it in. So it's going to come in with this cross on it. And you can, if you double click, the cross will go away. The cross gets put on, and it allows you to do like resize it before it sets pixels. That'll become more apparent in the future when you're resizing something. I'm trying to think. I always double click on it, but if it's an image that's smaller, I might enlarge it first and then double click on it, and then the computer will kind of like try to make it look a little bit better. But right now, then it's like frozen in pixels. It can't adjust any pixels. Let's see if I can show that. I don't have anything tiny on my computer, but that's why that does that, in case you're wondering what the X means. So I'll figure out a way to show you guys that in the future. All right, so now we're going to move the metal up. And something I do that's a natural is, instead of just grabbing it and moving it, because it placed it in the center, I always just hit Shift and move it up. Shift again constrains it, and I could have the worst coffee jitters ever, you know, like, but if I hold down Shift, it locks it in place, and so I can be jittery and just know at least it's moving straight up and down. It's a habit I've formed and I use all the time, just naturally. If I go to move something, I'm gonna hold down Shift unless I know I want it not straight. And generally, if I move something, it needs to be moved up or across. So kind of getting that habit. Remember, I always mention like design with two hands, one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse or stylus, and work. Like not one hand, you know, holding something else, you know, a fidget toy or something like that. That second hand needs to be on that keyboard to help you out. So there you go. All right, so I got that placed. With the metal layers selected, I'm going to go up to the hamburger menu. So the three dots is called a hamburger menu. Because it looks like the layers of a hamburger. Those crazy IT guys, when they're building interfaces, the name was created and the name stuck, and we call it a hamburger menu. And now I'm going to go to Create Clipping Mask, which is way down here. Though, as we talked about, all areas are alphabetical. No, except for this one. What the heck? They're supposed to be alphabetical. They're not anymore. Well, that's dumb. When did they change that? They used to be alphabetical order. These are. Window. Yeah, A. These are alphabetical order, unless it's got a line. So that's just to help you find stuff. Like I still stall out, like, where is it? I'm like alphabetical order. But when you go here, it's not. But I'm gonna go down, Create Clipping Mask. Boom. There we go. It went from plain black to cool metal. So quick way to do that. This is the way I would do it. And then I would bring this into a different program and typeset from there. I'm just saying, like, because you can't do metal type in the other programs. And so you have to use the proper program. And then with metal, select the typecast layer. Okay, I'm going to select the typecast layer. I'm going to scroll this down. It's highlighted. And then I'm going to hit the FX button. And then we are going to choose Inner Shadow from the pop-up menu. Inner Shadow. I get my item coming up. Make sure that it's highlighted. So remember, sometimes if you open it a different way, that can be activated. But you want to see the screen, and it'll show you the correct matching screen for what's highlighted here. It changes, it happens, but I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to zoom in on this so we can see it better. All right, typecast, FX, inner shadow. That pops up. I don't know if you saw what happened. I'm going to crank one, but I'm going to do everything. Set the mold. Will do. Okay, so set the blend mode to multiply, set the opacity to 48, but I'm going to crank it just so you guys see that difference. And we want it 48. It's all about Photoshop, is all about subtlety and changes to making, again, to make your Photoshop look like it's not Photoshop. They want the angle. They're changing the angle to 120. So it shifted it from the right side to the left side. And you can see that like line. It's like, where's the sun coming from is kind of, you know, like where's the effect coming from? So it's 120. Distance 18. That's pretty big. There you are. Choke 0 and size 16. Choke 0, size 16. It's kind of clunky. It's a little much, but you know what? We're trying to, you know, we're showing it for showing it. So then I'm going to hit OK, and there we are. So that's a metal type to see before, after, and that's what we're doing there. Oh, sorry. I hit something and it changed my chapter. Creating type on the path. All right. So we're going to select the model layer. And I'm going to zoom out. And I think we have some hidden stuff. Select the model layer. Choose Window Paths to show the Paths panel. So I'm going to go to Window and then Paths. Oh, God. It came up in a whole different screen. And I have this. And it's called, what comes up is Paths and then Speech Path. If I click on that, you'll see coming out of her mouth, a line appears. And that's a previously drawn path that you can maybe draw in Photoshop, or if I brought that in from Illustrator, this is where it would go. I'm going to walk you through this, but this is like something, again, I would do in a different program to make it visible. Now I'm going to select the horizontal type tool. All right. Now this is, we have to change stuff, and it doesn't work unless you change everything. And I get questions about this one all the time. So make sure you follow it, because it again, I think sometimes the steps are a little bit reversed. They tell you one way one time and then kind of reverse it. So I selected the horizontal type tool, but now in the option bar, I'm going to right align. Last time they had us do that like later. Then in the character panel, I'm going to go Myriad Pro. I'm going to keep what I have. Myriad Pro, and I can change it to regular or a different one. Regular. All right. The size, 14 point. Hit return. Make sure you hit return, else that doesn't click in. I'm going over to here to tracking to -10. I'm going to hit return. And I'm going to do color to white. And I'm already set on all caps. And that's that little button with the TT. And just make sure it's darker than the rest. All right, so now when I place my cursor, unlike we would do for our normal work and place it here, I want to place it by her mouth. And see how my cursor changed? As soon as you see that change, you can click. Now it put in the type, and I'm going to type in what's new in 3D type. Question mark. And as you can see, it flows out from the right instead of the left. And that's why we do the right align, is it makes sure that that is properly there. All right. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to change some of this, but not all of it. And we're just going to highlight part. Again, this is just anybody who's worked in Microsoft Word, in school or work. You just grab and click, or even an email, even your text messages, you do the same thing. You grab and click and highlight, and I want to change that part from regular to bold. And then there we are. So it's regular, and then 3D type is in bold. There we are. All right, so next up, we got to duplicate this twice. We're going to do it once, and then we're going to do it again. And again, this is personal preference. They're like with this, choose edit, choose duplicate layer from the layers panel menu and click OK. For me, that's like here and then layer panel and duplicate. So that's a lot of work. Okay. I'm just showing you to have this selected, to go here, to have to go up here. It's too much work for me. So I'm just going to drag this to the plus and I have it. All right. It's a shorter distance for me to move and less reading and thinking. So that's what we like. It's a weird thing, but the more you can stop doing extraneous moves, the more time you have for designing. Did anybody watch The Bear? That show on Hulu, super popular. I don't like it, but I watch it. There's a point where they're like setting up a stations and they wanted to get it down so they can move across the kitchen within 10 seconds. And how did they move stuff? Because the most efficient way to do it, they could get the most done. That's what this is about. What do I have to not keep moving everywhere in order to be more efficient and move quickly? And so I can keep moving with my design. And that's why we talk about that. Okay, now I am on what's new, 3D type, copy, and I'm going to go to edit, free transform path, and rotate approximately 15 degrees. Edit, free transform path, and then I can just kind of go near a corner and I get that little guy, and I'm just going to turn it until it's 15 and let go. And there's my new type. And then we're going to move that up and we're going to change. I'm just going to grab it, move it up. You can look for those things. It's lining up there with her chin, which I like. It's giving me a point, and I like that there. And then we're going to highlight the back end of this. And I'm going to type in, just highlight 3D only and put web. W-E-B. All right, we got that one done. All right, now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on that what's new and type. I'm going to bring it down to the plus. I got another copy. I'm going to take that one, but I'm going to rotate it minus 15 degrees. So I go up. And I'm going to bring that down. This is one where when you're working in a tight area, make sure your auto select is off. All right. That way it's not going to be clicking onto the wrong type pattern. So make sure that's off. That's another one where I very often am turning that on and turning it off, depending on how fine the work is and like how detailed my layers are. So always keep that in mind. If you're like struggling and like it keeps clicking on the wrong thing, just go turn auto select off and it won't click on anything except for what's highlighted here. Yeah, I honestly, all the time, that's an on off button. It's never, I don't like design with it just one way only. And I'm going to put in type effects. What's new in type effects? All right. Oh, I thought I turned those off. If these keep popping up for you, that's called tool. What is it called? I'm going to show you how to turn it off. Go to your preferences. In PC, it's under File, I believe. In Photoshop, it is under this Photoshop. You go to Settings and Tools. Show Rich Tooltips, turn that off and hit OK. And then when you hover, that stuff will never show up again. I find it irritating. But like every time I like kind of like log in, sometimes they're back on. It's kind of, all right, enough about that. All right, warping point type. Okay, so we're gonna go to the what's new in 3D type, our first one. All right, first one we did, what's new in 3D type. And we are gonna go to type and warp text. So I'm gonna go type and warp text. Oh. Wow. That is hilarious. Okay. So they told us to type and have that turned on, but that's not going to work. So I have to select this. Cancel. Oh, wait. Then it did it. Let's try it again. Type, warp text. I just hit OK, but I still got this up. So let's see if I can push past it. And I'm going to go to wave. Oh, it apparently it doesn't matter. Hilarious. All right, so I push past it. Whatever. So I choose wave, and then they have some numbers they want to put in. So it's 33, and I'm going to hit tab, and then minus 23, tab, and then 5. And I'm just going to hit the sidebar. See it? There it is. I'm going to hit OK. And then we're going to add that to the other ones. But I'm going to hit OK. And it says do the same thing. Oh, you have to, because the way it adds it, it's not an effect. It's a separate type of effect. So you have to do it to each one. I can't grab the FX and pull it up. So I just go to this one, type, warp text, hit OK. That pops up. I go to wave, and I'm just going to type in their numbers. 33, tab, minus 23, tab, 5, and then hit OK. And then do to the final. As you can see, this is the normal type, and then when you do something to it, it kind of changes the icon there. That's so you know like you did something to that text. Type, warp text, OK. Wave, OK. Oh. Type, warp text. That came back on. So I just hit OK too soon. 33, tab, minus 23, tab 5, enter. There you go. All right, so now we are pulling guides for positioning. We're going to zoom out. All right, I hit Command 0 to zoom out. Now we need to pull in a guide from the right and one from the top. So I have to pull a guide, and I'm going to change, they say inches. So if you're not on inches, go to Settings, General, and then we want to go to, they move this one, units and rulers. Again, it's alphabetical order. I'm going to change to inches and hit OK. I'm at inches now, and I'm going to pull 1/4 inch in. If you have to zoom in to make it easier to see, you can. And I'm going to pull my guide in to right there, and then one to the number 2 mark right there. You can be real precise with these. So there's the 2, and that's 1/4 inch in because this is 8.5. So half of, we know rulers. Get to know rulers. If you're like rulers are confusing, you're going to have to like really know your rulers when people say sizes. Like, it's very important in graphic design. Now we're going to add a paragraph of text from a sticky note. This is the only time you will probably add a paragraph of text from a sticky note. Yeah, it's just, I would never, like, even if I was working, I would have the text be in a different program and then come in. But so I am going to go to that, and then you can I should be able to double click, or I have to be on her. Double click on the corner of the sticky notes. Where's it going? Oh, here. Okay. It finally opened over here on a different area. There we go. So I clicked on it. It popped up. Sorry, it's always popping up on a separate screen for me. Here's the stuff that they want us to put in with a paragraph tool. So I am going to, double click, open that. All 9 lines of text should be selected. So you can just like click and drag all that, and I'm gonna hit copy. There you go. And then select the model layer. So I'm on the model layer, and then select the type tool. Position the pointer where the guides intersect about 1/4 inch from the right edge to 2 inches. So we are going to go here. Oh, we do that. Okay. Put it right on top of her. All right. So type tool. Oh, I don't want that. Let me undo what I just did. Type tool. And I'm going to click and drag. And I'm going to fill that column up. And then lorem ipsum, and it actually filled. And I'm going to go paste. And then there's the text that I copied from my notes. And I'm going to close that out. That's how you do that. Again, this is like the only time you'll ever do that. I've never in my 30 plus years of designing had somebody put a sticky note in my Photoshop file. It's always on a different, they sent me a document and it's in the document. So do it, get it done, move on. From here on out, it's just about typesetting. And we are gonna just select certain parts of the type and do adjustments. Super easy, just walk through it. So first part is select the first 3 lines, font family, Myriad Pro or another sans serif font. Okay, Myriad Vari. This is sans serif. It doesn't have little loops on it. They want regular. But they're going to have to change it later. So you can go over across there, or you can go here, whatever you're most comfortable with. But I think we're going to be switching back and forth. So kind of move around. Crisp, they want it from the right. Now we're going to adjust the leading. This is a new one. If you're new to leading, that's this A on top of the A. I will talk about that ad nauseum in the future for you. But what that does is it changes the distance between the lines of the text. I hope you saw that got tighter. It's called getting tighter or looser. Leading refers to the old days when people hand did type in newspapers. If you would insert a piece of lead in between the lead type, and so it's called leading. You're adding lead or removing it and making it tighter or looser. And then the tracking, we've talked about tracking. We want it at 50. Color is white. With the text still selected, click the right align text in the options bar, paragraph panel. Select just the word trend and change that font style to bold. So then it is right. And then I'm going to select that and I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to bold. So it's then light, bold, light, or regular, bold, regular. Select the rest of the text that we placed. Go to Myriad Pro regular variable. So that's on bold. We want regular. 22 point. I'm going to stay over there. 22. Leading 28. Tracking 0. TT all caps. It's set on TT all caps. Now select what's hot. Change that to bold 28. We're emphasizing certain words, as you can see that what we've done before. Repeat the step with what's not. Bold. You got to type it in. They're not always there. 28. Now select trend. All right. Hit this color guy right there. Boom. And we're going to type in their RGB. No. Yeah, RGB. Excuse me. So we want 0, tab 174, tab 239. It's that light blue. As you can see, it changed the color. Okay. Save your changes. Save. Boom, 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 boom. And then finishing up. Okay, so we're just going to right click on this and then hit delete note, and that will, yes, remove that note, and you're done. Make sure you follow my adjustments. Again, I always make those adjustments so I know you're just not taking the final and sending it in. I have certain adjustments I want you to make. Make those adjustments and be done. Again, this one is all about like typesetting. Get to know it, get to know the words that are used. If you're not in any other classes yet, and this is it, these are words that are used throughout graphic design in typesetting. So there you go. All right, let's talk about, and then this is similar to what I want you to do. You're doing the same steps for that magazine cover you created. So you made a background, and you put somebody's head in there, and you tilted their head a little bit. And then I want you to make up the name of the magazine. I want you to have 2 articles and just make it up. Just make up, you know, what's that new say? Everybody's a goat now, like whatever, just kind of type in, have some fun, and make it look like a little magazine. Tips on that. See how they left this 1/4 inch? When you're doing yours, please leave at least a 1/4 inch where I don't want to see like your text like this. Because you're like, oh, I just put it up to the edge. No, that's like a margin. So make sure you don't do that. Like make sure all your text is at least a 1/4 inch from the edge, just like this. That's just good practice from here on out. It goes into graphic design practices, which you'll learn more in the future. But yeah, no text should ever be touching the edge of a file like that. It should always be indented. Make sure you're doing that. Have some fun with it. Make up some magazine stuff. You're creative. You picked a creative field. Sometimes it involves a little bit of writing and having some fun with that. So cool. Now let's do the Odyssey. All right. I'm going to switch back because I'm going to be dealing with a lot of All right. So I'm going to be dealing with a lot of stuff. As you can see, I brought in a ton of images, and I made sure like my images, and this is where everybody is going to be like, oh man, we're big. It's better to start as big as possible than to start too small and realize you have to adjust something. That's our starting point. Now we want to make an underwater Odyssey, and I asked you all to like find these images, cut them out, and place them in your image. I should have kind of said, cut them out so you have them, and then we're going to rearrange and do some stuff. So you may need to go back and forth. For like the next, 10 minutes, I'm going to be talking about creating a composition and starting to play around and getting things to kind of look different, or, I want to say like fake or crazy, stuff like that. But all of this comes down to is in Photoshop, talking to another student is what I can show you how to do certain things, but nothing with Photoshop is kind of written in stone. And so a lot of it comes from, I want to do this. I kind of know how this tool works, but what if I push it? What if I do something else with that? So a lot of it is experimentation. I highly doubt that a lot of people, and no, there are some people who know exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it. So the first thing I'm doing is simply just making my water background as big as my 16:9 format. And then I have a mountain background, and I'm going to click on that. And now here I want auto select on, I think. And I'm going to make that as big as the background as well. Now, the first thing I would do for me is I'm like, okay, which one is, like more important? Should I put that on top, or should I have the mountain? Like, which is more important? So I'm going to keep mountain on top. And I honestly haven't done this. I'm doing this live with you. All I did was find the pictures. I didn't even cut anything out. So this is how I work. So I'm looking at that mountain, and I'm like, okay, first thing I'm going to do is maybe knock the opacity down to 50. How does that look? Well, it actually looks all right, but I may want to remove maybe the mountain or the top, like the grayish part, and it fades into dark pretty nicely, which fades into my image pretty nicely. But it's giving, to me, at least on my screen, a little bit of a chalky effect. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to check out all these. Darken, it makes so then the darken makes the mountain, the white part bluer. Multiply, like kind of brings it in from the edges, could be okay. That's a little, that's a little too much. That hides too much of the mountain, and I'm just looking like, which one will look cool? I kind of digging that right now, overlay. Because then I can go back, because I put 50% on the mountain, and what if I go 75? But it darkens it. But so I don't like the bottom so dark, but I like the mountains. I'm going to add a layer mask. So I'm going to layer mask, and reveal all. So we've talked about masks a little bit before, and that now pulls up that button. And I'm going to actually hide that. So now what I can do is draw black. I'm going to just like do it like this. If I draw black, why is it not exposing? Oh, I have to take it off of overlay. I'm going to write down overlay so I remember. But because overlay is on, it's overlaying it on white. It doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go back to normal. And as you can see, where I masked it, it went to white. And if I turn on the C, I can see through it. So what I want to do is do a gradient. I want to lose the bottom of the mountains and have it slightly go up. So when I have that overlay on, the bottom's not so dark. It'll make sense in a minute. All right. So back to normal. And now I'm going to do the gradient. So I'm going to do a gradient. And my gradient needs to be black to white for this to work. And I'm going to pull up from the bottom. And what it's doing is it's showing me what's happening. And I don't have that background on, but I'm going to go maybe to right here and let go. And as you can see in my mountain, I have a black to white gradient, and I'm going to turn on my C. And now you can see that like this is brighter. And then when I go to my overlay, the C is still pretty bright. And then it goes up to the mountains. Now, the other thing I could try is and this is sometimes I do this like really just big and bold, because you always undo it, but I don't know what it'll look like. What if I remove like that dark sky from the mountains? And here I'm just doing it like I got the biggest freaking brush possible, and I'm just kind of doing it like, do I like the way this looks? Is it, how is it affecting the background? You know, it lightened it up, and you can see what I did in my mask. And then if I go back and I turn that off and I'll go with the mountain again and I'll go back to normal, that's what I did. And then I can go in again on this and like kind of make sure those are off and get a little bit tighter. And this can, because this is background and it's going to like subtlety. This doesn't have to be perfect. And then if I wanted to, I could reverse that and then paint white and like make sure like I go back into this mountain here and I want to make sure the mountain is as dark as possible, right there. You know, like change the gradient. Where is that hitting? How's it hitting? How's it blending in? Does it look good? And I go to normal and I go back to overlay and I'm like, all right, so there, that's looking, now it looks like there's a mountains within the sea. You know, and I'm just working with, again, playing around. My first playing around would just be hitting the over, like what blend mode makes these two work together. And it changes if you like flip flop them. And if I do like this one to normal and the underwater to like, see how it changes it? It's because I put the one on top of the other, completely different effects. And so it's all about the experimentation with Photoshop. Which way is right? I don't know. What do you want to have happen is the important part. So that's why, you know, like, well, how should I do this? I can't always answer that question. And I can give you maybe like one way, and sometimes it's playing around and doing other stuff. So yeah, kind of keep that in mind. I got this little hummingbird. Let's see if it can extract it. I'm going to go to this one. Let's try it. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, duh. I'm on the wrong layer. Let's get that out of there. It did an all right job. Now, something else I can do. No, I'll do that. I'll do that in post. I'm going to copy and paste. And I call it Hummy. My friend. Now I got Hummy here, right? Oh, I gotta turn that off. Bzz, flying all around. Hummy is in front. And it looks like it. So I should probably figure out a way to get Hummy to look like more like it's in the water. I can work on placement, and right now I'm going to keep Hummy at this size because I'm like thinking in my head like, oh, maybe I'll make it look like it's like sucking on some coral or something like that, in which I may, you know, turn it, you know, these amazing little acrobats or whatever, and it can go off the page, like it can coming in from the edge. I'll just do that. What the heck? We'll keep it for now. So I got that going on, but it's like it's not underwater. So the first thing I'm gonna do is like, what happens if I bring it here? I move Hummy underneath the mountain. Still, it like changed it. You see what it like, it's using some of the mountain effect. I can't put it under the water. So then I'm going to try this crazy thing. I'm going to take my underwater scene and I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm going to bring it up, but then I'm going to mess with those things again. Dissolve, darken, multiply, color it. And I'm only looking at the hummingbird. And I'm seeing if one of them works to a point where it's like, oh, that looks like the bird is underwater. And I'm not feeling any of these. Ooh, that might be good. Soft light. And just for, you know, again, it's all experimentation because it's changing the effect of everything. And actually, look at that. I like how, see now, this is like the pineapple. Look how much the contrast got bumped up on this. I think I dig that. But I still want some more blue with the hummingbird. So you can right click and select pixels. So I was on that image. I right click to select pixels, which will select my hummingbird. and I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to fill it with blue. And actually, I should probably, it's always best to like pick from your image so the colors match. And so I'm not like mistakenly picking like a green blue, but it's like over in this area. So it'd be that blue. I'm gonna hit OK. And I'm gonna go to edit, fill, and I'm gonna use foreground color. I'm gonna hit OK. Now it filled that with the foreground color, and I'm gonna zoom in. And then now I'm gonna mess with the opacity and stuff. Like if I go to like 25, oh, look at that. Like I don't want it so, again, I don't want it to look chalky. So I can then like do that. And then what if I go through these again? Oh, you know, oh. And you find the one that looks super rad. And then it just kind of becomes a step and repeat. Which one do I want? I think I'm gonna stay with that one for now. That might be too light. You know, like then I'm like, oh, it's too light, and you know, it's too dark. And so I can just lighten that up. You know, move that. So now I can see it, but it looks like the hummingbird is under the water. The light might not be perfect. Then the other thing I want to mention to everybody is this, and then I'll let you go. But like this is the process of Photoshop. This is the process of that creating what's in your head in the Photoshop. It is not like the other programs where like typesetting is kind of rule based. Like I know the rules for typesetting, and I make this, and I set the lettering, and I set this, and I hit this, and I hit that, and it's done. This is more like artistry or more like illustration, in that you're like, how do I want it to look? Where do I want it to be? How do I want things to look? And it's a lot of like going back and forth. This is my process. And like, this is where you get lost in it. You have your podcast on, you have whatever you're listening to, and you just sit there and you do it. And it's going to be like, work on it. But like I said, the other one is like, make sure you're starting with big images rather than the small ones. But for my last thing, I'm going to cut out the clownfish. This is going to be a crap cutout, I bet. Oh, it's pretty good. Copy paste. So I got my clownfish. I'm going to turn off that one. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is working with in layers, but working with depth. So I can easily, I want auto select off. So now I want auto select off because I have this filter on top. And if every time I click and it's on auto select, it's going to click on that. So from here on out with this project, I'm not going to work with auto select on. But like here, if I, you know, the fish is huge, but if I make it smaller and I do some like overlapping, do some overlapping in your designs. This is a poor example of that. But like overlapping helps give the idea of like, there's, you know, different layers to your file. Like, and you know, like this, why? Oh, that's a great example right there. Oh no, I double clicked. Like here, I'm gonna edit. He's facing the wrong way. Now I'm going that way. But then you can see on my clownfish, he's see-through because I have that water effect, which doesn't affect the bird as much. And so then I have to like, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get the fish to not be like that. But like just that overlapping and stuff like that. Let's do that. Right click on the layer and select pixels and create a new layer. It's going to be below the guy, and I will fill it with the blue. So edit, fill. Well, actually, here's yeah. Oh, and I may need to mask it from the top layer because he's so light. But let's play around. I'm gonna put that on top. Let's bring it, you know, bring down because he's underwater too. So the opacity down to. And then what I can do is, and this will have to be something that you can only do at the very end. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to hit select pixels. I'm going to go to underwater copy. I'm going to go to layer mask, and I'm going to do reveal all again. But now here I have that. If I fill this with black and I go to edit, fill, and I just choose black, it took the fish portion out so the coral doesn't show through the fish now. And now when I can like kind of deeper adjust the fish with this layer and then go to like, maybe I do want the opacity more, you know, like, and then we work with like what looks good on him. Multiply might look really good. You know, bring him down, like part of that deep underwater. So it's all about playing around and trying things over and over and over. Like, is there, you know, a special way to do it? Then I got to look like, then there's this like, I might have to fix something behind the hummingbird because the hummingbird is kind of showing through over the fish. So I may have to adjust that. These are the things I want you to start practicing with your underwater odyssey. So have some fun. It's all about trial and error. It's all about trying different things. And honestly, you look stuff up on the internet too. How do you do this? How do you do that? The internet's an amazing resource, as I am too. But yeah, if you're just like working away and it's late at night, just look it up. How do I make something? How do I do that layer mask? How do I do that again? And I think it was, you know, covered in a couple other ones. So there you go. Have some fun. Do some amazing things. I'm excited to see what you come up with. All right. That's it for me. Any questions? All right. Have some fun with these. I will talk to you, if not on the discussion boards, next week. Bye.